In 1954, we got one of cinema's greatest pop culture monster franchises ever made, Godzilla. Now, what if I told you that someone turned this franchise into a nightmare? That's right, I am talking about the series called The Man in the Suit. Now, let us begin. With most analog horrors, we see that many creators would use loud sounds, jump scares, flashing lights, and the art of misdirection by leading the viewer to something else, so that the jump scare can catch the viewer off guard and give the spook to top it all off. But this series, however, things change as the mode of analog horror was changed entirely, as you see that the series is more focused on telling a story that is left to the viewer's imagination to fill up the pieces and make the viewer want to know more. This goes to another level as the series follows the order of all of the Showa era movies, as each tape has a date that relates to each film. For example, the second tape had the date of 1955. The date of the film, Godzilla Raids Again. Then, the third tape, it took place in 1962, when King Kong vs. Godzilla was made. The series also follows the message of what the 1954 film had. That message being nature versus humanity, or that there are consequences for using atomic power. I say this because the longer you watch the series, the more you see how everything connects to the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings. Most notably, the man who decides to become Godzilla and take revenge for what happened to his family, as it was the bombings themselves that led to the death of his wife and children. Everything connects in a way that makes the series feel more connected to Godzilla and to the atomic bombings themselves, but with a semi-realistic story to tell. So, if you choose to watch this series, remember that your view of the analog horror as a whole will change completely by how different but unique and curious the series becomes the longer you watch. Now, don't get me wrong, most analog horrors are creepy, however, they rely on just one factor, and in a way that it's confusing and it's too much for the viewer. The VHS tapes for Fnaf are a perfect example of this. With the Fnaf VHS tapes, they rely too much on gore, loud sounds, jump scares, and flashing lights, and the same can be said for the Walton Files. In fact, almost every analog horror series on the internet tells an interesting story, however, it isn't always consistent and it suffers from the same flaws as other analog horrors, but with different elements. With The Man in the Suit, however, that is quite the opposite. Instead, we have a consistent series that tells a story that uses tension, dread, and suspense in a way that is effective in making the tape feel more disturbing and interesting to watch to the viewer, while making something unique and subtle. It uses elements that make something truly special without relying on a factor that many others seem to abuse. This series, it fills you with dread and suspense as you watch, as you never know what the series can bring to the table. For instance, we all thought that this was just a guy in a Godzilla suit, but the more you watch, the more you realize that this isn't the case anymore. And that, my friend, is where the series becomes disturbing to watch to most people. It's disturbing because the story gets dark and uncanny, but in a way it balances itself in a way that it doesn't repeat other VHS series. Just the imagination of the viewer, the small audio cues that play while watching, and the feelings that make the series and the story it's trying to tell more terrifying, while making the series feel similar to the old films. So, if you ever come across something you might have second thoughts on, don't be afraid to try it out. It might be worth the try. Now, with almost every great idea, it is the creator's execution that makes something truly special. The Man in the Suit makes analog horror in a way that shows creators that you don't need loud sounds and fancy effects to make something scary. It brings back the mold of how horror is supposed to be. Using sound cues, telling a good story, making a creepy atmosphere, while using twists and turns with the audience's imagination to create what only many can describe as a masterpiece. It is a diverse story with depth that will make your imagination go crazy because of how interesting the story is, that in a way, it is chilling and addicting to watch. It hooked you from the start like a trap, and now you just want to stay until the end to see where that story will unfold. And the fact of the matter is, it's a tale of revenge and grief. It takes Godzilla, horror, and the path of vengeance to the next level. A man in the 1950s whose family was killed because of the senseless violence of humanity's obsession to have the next big super weapon. Then we see that same man want revenge and becomes blinded by vengeance to the point that he takes a drug and becomes the literal embodiment of a creature created by atomic power, but doesn't see the void blinding him as the corrupt company is using him as a slave for their benefit. And the truth is, he isn't fully aware of it all. A story that turns the message of Shin Godzilla's theme, "Who Will Know?" into a reality. A series of how this man is in a great struggle with grief and agony. The only thing he can do is create chaos, as that is all he can do because it's the only way to cease the darkness killing him. Now, I do not know if we will ever get another series like this in a long time, but all I can say is this. The Man in the Suit is one, if not my all-time favorite series I've ever watched in a long time on YouTube. Well done, unknowingly. Well done indeed. Now, that is all for me for now. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you want more content like this, then please subscribe for more horror content like this in the near future. Now, I will see you all in the next one. Take care, and God bless.